trading for Russell Westbrook, signing Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard. Those three among 6 players they acquired age 32 or older, which would be the most all-time in an offseason. Our research, see, we know that stuff. Age ain't nothing but a number.
To be able to come back home, be with my family, be a part of this tradition is something that, you don't really get too many chances to do it twice. So when the opportunity actually presented itself and it was real, I think it was the best. It was the best opportunity.
It's like we supposed to be together. It's just something about the Lakers and myself. It's like we were just supposed to be together. It's like I had my greatest time, some of my greatest moments, here in the Lakers jersey, playing in LA, now playing with LeBron and AD and Russ and Carmelo. It's like a dream.
Ariza, Howard, and Anthony all rank among the top 5 in games played among active players, along with LeBron James. The Lakers could be the first team in NBA history to have 4 players.
The last 2 seasons, the Golden State Warriors have not had the services of Klay Thompson. And if I'm Steph Curry, who went to 5 consecutive NBA finals, who won 3 championships in that period of time, and I had to suffer what I had to suffer through the last 2 years, the only person hungrier than me, or just as hungry as me, might be Draymond Green. That's about it. They can't wait for Klay to come back. Klay can't wait to come back. And Klay, one of the top 5 shooters in basketball history, and a Hall of Famer already, the opportunity that Steph is looking at for them to reunite, with everybody talking about the Lakers and the Clippers and Phoenix and all of this other stuff, Lord have mercy. Look out for the Golden State Warriors. They are coming.
Steph Curry, I'm going to need a lower third for him pretty soon, the way you have it for LeBron, Stephen A., because I'm accused of being a lower third. I'm going to need one for Steph when I talk about him, the way you need one for LeBron. Great family man, philanthropist, et cetera. Because I'm accused of being a Steph Curry hater. One of my favorite players in any sport ever to watch, a miraculous player to put your eyes on. I point out that something like in overtime, in a win-or-go-home game this season, it's not just that they lost. He scored 0 points. I just pointed that out. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. He's a great player. But I point that out.
I just think it's important, Max, that you remind people at the time you had more hair, no crew cut on the side, and you didn't have any facial hair. That's the last time. That's when that was going on with Steph Curry. I just want to let the world know that.
No. I mean this season. This season when they made the play-in game. Right?
Okay.
The reason that doesn't even occur to you because it wasn't reported. No one noticed it. But in overtime, in a win-or-go-home game, this season, he scored 0 points. And no one bats an eye. Could you imagine if that was LeBron James, who scored 0 points in overtime of a win-or-go-home game? We would be killing him. And that's because LeBron is compared to the GOAT, Michael Jordan. He is playing against a ghost for the title of greatest of all time. He's running out of time. He's getting up there in age. He has a super team around him, even though it's imperfect parts, but it's still super talented. You always bring up, if I say, hey, could Steph ever be the greatest player ever? You talk about his height, and you'd be right. He's 6'3". He's the greatest 6'3" or under player ever, but because he's 6'3", he ain't ever going to be the greatest player who ever lived, right? He's already reached the mountaintop of what he's capable of doing in terms of his own legacy that way.
We thought that coming into last year, and look at what he did last year.
Because he's great. He was as good as he's ever been, and he's great, but he is not challenging MJ. That's what LeBron's up against. He does not have 6 championships. He does have a super team around him, no excuses. He is LeBron James. He's facing the most pressure, like we were just talking about, and he's got to be the most motivated.
I'm going to say something to you, Max Kellerman. I think you need to buckle your seatbelt for what I'm about to say because it's really true. You're right. Steph doesn't compare to MJ. Size and height has something to do with it. His lack of defensive prowess has a lot to do with it because he certainly was not even close to the defender that Michael Jordan did. But offensively, I can make a conversation that Steph Curry is in the conversation of MJ. We have never seen a shooter this phenomenal. Ever. And let's understand. understand. And see, no, he didn't have the aerial assault. He didn't have the aerial arsenal that Michael Jordan had. Couldn't finish at the basket the way Michael Jordan could or whatever. Steph Curry, we usually see offensive players, Max, and with the exception of a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain that's over 7 feet tall and dominant because of their height and size and the skyhook, of course, we usually look at guys, and there's not a single player that we look at and we say Michael Jordan couldn't do that. We didn't see LeBron. We don't see LeBron. We didn't see Kobe, Vince Carter, or anybody else do anything that we felt Michael Jordan couldn't do offensively. Michael Jordan couldn't shoot like that.
Well, if you want to say
nobody could shoot like that.
If you want, no doubt. If you want to say foot for foot, Steph is the best offensive player ever. Fine, but
no,
you know what else Michael Jordan couldn't do?
I'm not saying he's the best. I'm just saying that as an offensive talent, because of Steph Curry's marksman ability, because of his ability to just shoot with his eyes closed. We made a big deal about what Michael Jordan did at the free throw line, closing his eyes and hitting the free throw against the Kemba Mutombo and the Atlanta Hawks. We are seeing Steph Curry shoot 40-foot jump shots.
Okay, let me ask you a different way.
We can't say anything.
Is there any universe ever where Michael Jordan could play overtime of a winner-go-home game and score 0 points in any universe? It would never happen. It happened to Steph. No one bats an eye. I'm not bringing it up to hate on Steph. I'm bringing it up to say the standards are different for Steph because he's shorter than a guy like LeBron.
Let's not just point shorter. Let's point the fact that, again, because you're relatively smaller, his movement without the ball, you're required to do all of that because you ain't posting anybody up. You got to run through picks and screens. You got somebody that constantly has their hand on you. You're not 6'6", 220. You're not LeBron 6'9", 260. I'm just saying, the point is the physicality can get to you. I understand that. So that's why I'm saying I wouldn't say better. But when you talk about pure skill, as it pertains to whatever your skill set may be, Steph Curry is in the conversation as one of the greatest offensive players to have ever played basketball, simply because in no era have we ever seen somebody. Yeah, we've seen spot-up shooters. We've seen jump shooters. We've seen catch-and-shooters, those guys. But in terms of dribbling the basketball and creating your own shot off the dribble, along with all of those things that I just mentioned, there has never, ever, ever been a shooter and I go back to days, Max, downtown Freddie Brown, Dale Ellis. You understand what I'm saying? It was before Ray Allen, Allen Houston, Reggie Miller, Chris Mullin, and all of these boys. Ricky Pierce and those crew. I mean, the list of Andrew Toney. You remember that.
Talen Horton-Tucker re-signing on a 3-year, $32 million contract. The 20-year-old averaged 9 points last season and a 2-year deal with former Heat guard Kendrick Nunn. Woj reporting he turned down more money for a title run with the Lakers. And, of course, earlier as we reported, they added Carmelo Anthony, giving them 2 of the top 10 scorers in NBA history. But when you make that list, it means a lot of wear and tear and a lot of birthdays. According to Elias Sports Bureau, the Lakers have never rostered 4 35-year-old players at the same time. As it stands now, they have 5, and 8 over the age of 32 as well. Horton, Tucker, and Nunn helping to bring down the average. Holy cow. NBA front office insider Bobby Marks joining us now. What stands out to how the Lakers are adding this type of depth here on a potential championship run in the offseason?
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. I think they checked the boxes for regular season depth and also for playoff depth. And when you added the 8 players to what was already here with 5, players here certainly with Russell and LeBron and AD here. Today was about the youth movement, right? Yesterday was about, players like Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, Wayne Ellington. Today was all about the youth movement. And I think when you're looking at players like, Kendrick Nunn is not on here, but players like Kendrick Nunn, who's on here, he's probably on the shooting guard. He's probably on the shooting guard list. Kendrick Nunn there. We had him projected at $11 million. As Woj just said, he turned down more money to come to the Lakers, signed for $5 million. Malik Monk, we had him projected at about $8 million. He comes to the Lakers for the veteran minimum exception. Wayne Ellington yesterday. My only concern is Nunn, Monk, and Ellington a combined 30 playoff games in their career. So a little bit of a lack of playoff experience there, but they've got some depth now. Now it's all about keeping the big three healthy.
Right now, the roster has five future Hall of Famers when you look at it, when you talk about Dwight Howard being added to Carmelo Anthony and this group right here at the top. Meanwhile, another big deal in the NBA today. DeMar DeRozan to the Bulls, sign and trade. Woj is reporting he'll sign a 3-year, $85 million contract. The Spurs will get the expiring contracts of Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu, a first-round pick in 2 seconds. You know, a lot is moving on in the East here. Sixers have not moved a lot. The Nets have just kind of quietly adjusted. But yesterday the conversation is the Heat making moves. How do they stack up against the Bucks and the Nets? Now, when you look at the moves the Bulls have made in the last 24 hours, how do they stack up to these teams in the East?
I'm not ready to put them up there with the big boys yet.
Yeah.
I still think they're kind of that tier 2 team, maybe with a team like New York. Atlanta in that group there, probably in that 4 to 6 range here. It's interesting with DeRozan. We talked about him yesterday. Maybe he would go to Miami for the mid-level exception, $9.5 million. 3 years, $85 million, fully guaranteed. And what they were able to do, it's a sign and trade with San Antonio. Players like Al-Farouq Aminu, Thaddeus Young, that works. You send DeRozan back into there, and that's your roster there. Now there's work to be done. 8 players under contract. They've got 6 roster spots. The big question is, can they bring Lauri Markkanen back, who's a restricted free agent? But you've got to like a starting lineup with, certainly with Lonzo, not LaMelo, Lonzo, DeRozan, Zach LaVine. Remember we talked about renegotiation. Will it make Zach LaVine happy? I think it will, and certainly Nikola Vucevic. So they've done a really nice job over the last couple days here. But as I said, there's still some work to be done.
And let's not forget the Spurs are going to get a first-round pick and a 2 second-round picks. But Vucevic was the shocker that we saw at the trade deadline. We thought the Bulls were sellers. It's a completely different attitude and mindset now that they brought in Vucevic during the season, adding some other big key names here. We'll see how this plays out for Billy Donovan as the East gets better.